Welcome everyone to whoever's here, who's joined already. Nice to see you all here, and nice to be joined by a few people from both South Africa and Hong Kong. This is EcoFoote's first event, and we'll be talking about how we can use education to enhance environmental awareness. So we are joined by some very important people in this industry. We're joined by Phillip from New Leaf Technologies. So Phil, maybe you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, hello, good afternoon to everybody in South Africa and evening to everybody in Hong Kong. My name is Phillip Hanley. As you can see, I've got the same surname as Matthew, and we are related. I'm the Customer Success Manager at New Leaf Technologies, and we are an online learning provider. We provide solutions all around from software all the way down to content development. And yeah, very happy to be here with Matt and EcoFoote, obviously also Benita and Soleil.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Phillip. Yeah, so as he said, we are related. We're actually cousins. So yes, New Leaf Tech is making waves in the e-learning industry in South Africa, and we hope to assist in the industry in Hong Kong as well. Because we know that given this current crisis, there's a lot of room for e-learning and those solutions out there. Soleil is joining us from EcoEd. So maybe Soleil, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, thank you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. My name is Soleil Riestra. I'm the founder of Keynote. We are a gamified technology platform, and we basically support education and learning on sustainable daily habits and try to empower people to take action and recognize what are the kind of things that we can change on our day-to-day lives. I met Matt, actually. This is quite interesting because I was the mentor of a startup weekend here in Hong Kong. And I think that was the first time that EcoFoote started to be presented in public here in Hong Kong. So I feel very close to the whole genesis of EcoFoote and how I'm seeing it evolving in time. So congratulations to you, and looking forward to seeing who else joins today.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for that little insight as well. I remember way back last year having that original presentation for EcoFoote and whatnot. And yeah, it's been a long journey until now, but we'll carry on moving forward, and hopefully all our collaboration will spark something amazing in terms of e-learning and environmental education around the world, and especially in Hong Kong as well. Then we have Benita from Encompass Hong Kong. Benita, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, so I'm Benita. I have social enterprise called Encompass, where we do the sustainable development goals. So before that, I was actually educated as a marine biologist. My both undergrad and my master is in marine biology, where I do research in Indonesia, Australia on coral reefs. And actually, subsequently, I did a degree in education. I did a postgrad diploma, and actually one of the subjects I study is digital education. So I'm very much interested in today's topic, and we'll have some SDG angle about the education to share later. So yeah, thank you, Matthew.
Fantastic, thanks, Benita. That's definitely something that we have in common as well, but studying education. And then New Leaf and Phillip will definitely talk about the tech solutions that we'll dive into in a few moments. So that introduces our keynote speakers, and welcome to all of you, and welcome to all the attendees that are here that have joined us. So we'll get right into it then. Each of us will do a presentation based on some various topics, and we'll have a couple of questions for the audience as well, just to engage you and make sure that you are interacting and getting the most out of this webinar. So welcome to all of you, and I'm going to share my screen in just a moment as well. Okay, there we go. So we have EcoFoote. EcoFoote is the host of this webinar. So it's our first event, and we are very lucky to be joined by the fellow keynote speakers here today. Hopefully to bring about some positive change in the future, given this current climate that we're in at the moment. So we are here to trigger some positive change for the future and to hopefully grow some positive impact across Hong Kong and South Africa and the rest of the world, hopefully. So EcoFoote was created about a year ago. In fact, we had our first year of operations that started on the 27th of November. So we only just turned one recently, and we've come a long way since the onset of EcoFoote. We've implemented our online learning as a service, so LAAS, and that is in conjunction with, or in partnership with New Leaf Technologies. So we use a platform called the New Spring, which Phillip will demo in a few moments. And we are about to launch our new app that is a multi-dimensional platform for sustainability that guides, rewards, and connects you to sustainable solutions. So that'll be launched in January next year in conjunction with the current service that we have as well, being that education platform that we have as well. So we are going to work with the fellow partners here today to build an environmental database for eco-education and really try and get as much awareness out there as we possibly can. Online education has really taken the limelight of this last year based on the current climate and what's been happening. So we are hoping to dive into that and use these resources that we have to really make an impact. So with that, I'd like to quickly just show you a preview of what's to come with EcoFoote, and I hope you enjoy. Okie dokie, so that's EcoFoote's solution. Basically, we've already launched our learning as a service, as we mentioned, in conjunction with that New Spring technology. And we are about to launch that multi-dimensional platform that really guides you to reduce your impact and helps you track your impact, rewards you for your actions. So we've been working closely with EcoEd for that actually. And then we connect you to sustainable solutions to really promote SDG of responsible consumption and production. Now's the time really that we need to trigger this change, as we've all already had to change our behaviors in such a drastic way anyway with COVID-19. So it's a great time for us to adapt and become more sustainable as a species and more resilient as a species. So just a bit about EcoFoote's history. As I said, we started EcoFoote about a year ago, and EcoFoote credits the woman who discovered the greenhouse gas effect in 1856. So we're really trying to promote the SDG of gender equality as well. Eunice Newton-Foote was the first scientist known to have experimented on the warming effect of sunlight on different gases. So she was really the first person to find out about the greenhouse effect and the potentials for global warming way back in 1856. So we've known about the potentials for climate change for really a long time. So yes, we just thought we'd credit her to try and promote awareness and promote some action in terms of trying to shift to sustainable action and behaviors as well. What we do, EcoFoote links people and businesses to a multi-dimensional approach of sustainability. Our platform takes you on a journey of measuring and reducing your environmental impact. So essentially we calculate your carbon footprint, and then we guide you to complete certain actions that gives you coins, and then you can redeem those coins for sustainable products, which really drives that responsible consumption and production. How we do this is we encourage this sustainable behavior with eco coins, and we set interactive tasks that enable you to reduce your eco footprint. With every completed task, we reward you with eco coins, as I mentioned, and these can be redeemed for sustainable products. So at the moment, we're in a very consumption-minded month. I suppose we're coming up to one, that being Christmas. So I suppose we all have to be very mindful of the things that we buy, not to buy too much plastic and too many products that would impact the environment. So this is one way in which EcoFoote can help you, is to really consume more sustainably and consume in such a way that it doesn't harm the planet. So as I mentioned earlier as well, we have a software as a service, or we could also say learning as a service in this sense, which is live, and you will all get a free course after this webinar in climate change. And then we've also made access available for the psychology of sustainability, which we're going to go through in a moment as well. So yes, you'll have both access to those two courses just out of just for free after this webinar, just so we can give you some value from this. And what we also do is we do carbon compensation to try and promote more reforestation and ecosystem regeneration. And we do this with various partners around the world. We've got one in the US, One Tree Planted. We've got Tree Adoption Uganda, from Uganda, obviously, and then a couple in Thailand and Nepal as well. And then like we mentioned earlier, today is all about the education of the environment, or how we promote environmental education and awareness. So what EcoFoote is doing alongside how the other companies are promoting this awareness around the environment, for example, EcoEd and Encompass, we are offering these online solutions that can teach you about how to restore the environment, how to protect the planet and climate change, so on. Courses along the lines of those topics to really promote this action and a holistic sense of how the environment works, along with protecting the ecosystem in which we live. So we are going to share with you our eco-education database later. So basically the premise of EcoFoote is to promote that responsible consumption and production. But we realize there's no single solution to a sustainable future. So we connect people to a range of different solutions that are needed to transition us to a greener economy. Every solution matters and has a role to play in the future of our species. We have developed a multi-dimensional approach to sustainability that benefits both people and businesses. So we're really trying to take a multi-dimensional approach to sustainability by educating and by rewarding people for their actions, and then connecting people to those sustainable solutions. And that's why working with other companies is so important as well, because we can't come up with all the solutions on our own. So it's really important that we have partnership for the goals as well. So that's SDG number 17, probably one of the most important SDGs of them all, is really to connect everybody to strive for a sustainable future and a more just future as well. Then very quickly, we're just going to go through a little bit about the psychology of sustainability. So this was created on a software called Articulate, which Phillip is going to talk through more in detail from a New Leaf perspective. Essentially what this software does, it allows you to create interactive content, kind of like an application. So we quickly just going to go through the first limitations of sustainability. And then this course will be available to you all after the webinar to continue with the course and to complete the course if you are interested. So basically the limitations that we have to sustainability would be environmental. As you can see, you can click on the different buttons, and that's what makes this interactive. So the environmental limitations would be that we are adding too much CO2 to the atmosphere, as Eunice Newton Foote would have said way back in 1850.
Sorry, Matthew, to interrupt you. I'm still seeing your presentation screen. Should we be seeing another screen?
Yes, thank you for letting me know. There we go. Oops, sorry. Yes, so basically, this is that interaction that I was talking about. These buttons are all clickable. And yes, so we were talking about the environment. So yes, this platform is called Articulate. Sorry about that. And yes, we're going through the environment. So the limitations with the environment is the overuse of Earth's resources. The current economic model assumes that the Earth has infinite resources, and we really need to shift this mindset and behavior in terms of how we become a more sustainable species. So this is along the lines of the behavior change that we've already gone through, and it's a really great time to adapt and shift as a species to adopt these different behaviors and really become more sustainable. Then we'll move on to the social factors. So now more so than ever, we need to hold each other accountable for the ecological footprint that we impart on our planet. That is why EcoFoote has created a motivational driver that encourages sustainable behavior. So we really need to address things like overconsumption, cost, culture, religion, and beliefs, and context, and really encourage this shift and adaptation in behavior across the planet. And education is really the main driver in which we can do so. As Nelson Mandela said, that the best tool to change humanity is through education. So I really believe that is one of the most important SDGs that we have to address as well. Then we also have personal limitations, and that would be lack of education or lack of awareness, ignorance, same lack of awareness. Our habits, it's really trying to break habits that we have. And COVID-19 has already done so. So it's really about the change in behavior in the long term, and it's not about going back to normal, but essentially we need to shift into a new normal in this current climate that we are in at the moment. And we also have procedural changes that we need to change as well. So this would be systemic issues such as manufacturing, production, really trying to promote that responsible consumption and production. And this is where we also need to try and incentivize those changes from governments and businesses to really think about the triple bottom line, being that balance between the environment, the economy, and society, to really try and preserve the environment and to promote social equity, and then to have economic stability rather than continuous economic growth. That's really the key of all of this. Is we can't continue to grow and grow and grow the economy, but we have to grow within the boundaries of the planet. So rather, economic stability is probably a better way to look at it. So that brings into the economic aspect, where we should be looking into different functions and different theories, such as donut economics and the circular economy model, and really trying to promote responsible consumption and production, or rather the sustainable supply and demand over this continuous growth that might be very harmful for the planet. And thereafter, let me just quickly reshare again. I have to change the screen. Sorry about that. We will be diving into Philip's presentation from New Leaf Technologies. So he's going to quickly explore the latest technological solutions and how New Leaf is enhancing quality education through e-learning. So I just went through that psychology of sustainability very quickly, just because I'm going to share that course with you after this presentation, after this webinar, and you'll have access to that for free after this webinar as well. So on that note, I'd really like to introduce Philip and what he'll be speaking with about New Leaf Technologies and the technology solutions that they offer. So Philip, would you like to take it away?
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you for sharing that. And also, I just want to say it's really exciting to see where EcoFoote is going, and to see, you know, the fact that you guys are launching in Jan is the most exciting I've ever been. So well done. But yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. It's really a pleasure to be here. My name is Phillip Hanley, and today I really want to you about technology, and specifically technology that relates to learning. Now, obviously, there are a whole bunch of technologies out there, each with similar basic functionalities, as well as, of course, technologies that complement each other. So here are a few of New Leaf's products, and we have a range of products that we offer and utilize in order to facilitate online learning. But the two that I want to focus on are these two. A NewSpring, which is a learner experience platform, or LXP, and Articulate 360, which is an authoring tool. But you might want to ask yourself, what environmental benefits are there to delivering training online? Some are obvious. The most obvious probably being a decrease in the use of paper for textbooks and printouts, but some that you may not have considered. For instance, Simca Fleischer calculated the effect an average class term would have on both the environment as well as finances. And she calculated that a 50-week course with 20 students that met 3 times a week equated to about 200 vehicles driving 12,000 miles a year. Now that's using 6,000 barrels of oil. If this course is moved online, it not only saves 1,200 tons of CO2, but it also eliminates more than $1 million in travel expenses. So the evidence is there. But now, how would one convert from a classroom-based course to an online course? If each of the lessons from that example was 2 hours long, you're left with a 300-hour course. And 300 hours of learning is a massive amount. And we know now that an ineffective trend is to take a PowerPoint presentation or a classroom curriculum and then just pop those exact same words into an e-learning course. So not only does it do very little for the learners, but it also wastes time and money and usually results in poor design. So that's where Articulate comes in. And Articulate 360 is a cloud-based e-learning platform that helps firms build online courses. It comes with a host of products, including Storyline, Rise, like you saw there with Matt, Review, and Replay, just to name a few. An Articulate Storyline allows you to create engaging, bite-sized content in a variety of media formats. So the interface is very similar to PowerPoint, but it offers a lot more functionality and options for publishing as an HTML5 web page. It can also be used to produce things like simulations, quizzes, drag and drop interactions. You can do screen recordings and many other e-learning objects that users can interact with. It's also great for creating learning modules that present information in a non-linear or unconventional format, or for modules that require a significant amount of interactive features in order to keep those learners engaged. So one of the most effective trends in online learning is through game-based and gamification. The core concept behind game-based learning is teaching through repetition, failure, and accomplishment of goals through games. For example, crosswords. Whereas gamification is the application of typical elements of gameplay. For example, point scoring, competition with others, as well as things like rules of play. Here, you can see an example of an environmental course that includes aspects of both. The learner enters their name on the screen, and throughout the rest of the course, they're spoken to directly in a personalized manner. So they're awarded with tokens and rewards for every module that they complete. And the initial module provides the learner with direction and prompts, teaching them how the rest of the course will work. The focus here is on navigation and engaging the learner, making sure that they are willing to come back for more. The rest of the course will be focused on content and teaching. So there are a whole host of other authoring tools out there. And I mean, I could spend an hour just talking about Articulate, but some others, including Adobe Captivate, Gomo, Lectora, Domino is a great one, as well as Elucidat, are all great sort of utilities that you can use to try and help you uplift your learners and uplift your courses. But now I want to switch our focus to learner management systems, or in this case, a learner experience platform, which is a NewSpring. So first of all, let's go over what an LXP is. And basically, an LXP is a collaborative platform that puts the learning in the hands of the learner rather than an administrator. The goal is to engage employees with the platform and content using a personalized user experience. Now, part of the way a NewSpring does this is through a learner-centric design. It's a platform that is responsive on any device and can be accessed anywhere, anytime. It also has a customizable look and feel that can be added either on the entire environment or even down to individual courses. But that's not exactly what makes it an LXP. Adaptive learning or adaptive teaching is the delivery of custom learning experiences that address the unique needs of an individual through things like just-in-time feedback, pathways, and resources, rather than providing a one-size-fits-all learning experience. At the beginning of the course, you can offer a baseline assessment to your learners, as you can see in this example, and as the instructor, you can match these questions to specific objectives. So here we're seeing that there are 3 objectives in this course, objective A, B, and C, and the learner will go through the baseline assessment, and the system will then identify knowledge gaps and advise the learner based on the answers they got wrong. So this kind of personalized learning journey allows the learner to focus their time on content they don't know, rather than spend their time on content they already know. So in this example, the first 2 questions are linked to objective A. The second 2 questions, question 3 and 4, are linked to objective B. And the last 2 questions, question 5 and 6, are linked to objective C. So once the learner completes and hands in their work, they first of all get a summary of how they did, and they can go and view some of the incorrect answers and go and try and remediate. But then they also, as you can see here, so they get a specific score for some of their objectives. And objective A, because they got those questions right, they got a positive score of +2. With objective B and C, they got a negative score of -2. And then you can see that the system tells the learner that they need to focus on content that relates to objective B. So that's a really, really great example of how adaptive learning works. Now, if we look at a much more generic example of this, Netflix doesn't recommend the same content to you as it does to your neighbor. You are interested in different things, and so it recommends content based on what you have previously watched. Your Netflix account is personalized. And as I said earlier, a 300-hour course is never going to be successful. But through instructional design and adaptivity, we're able to significantly reduce the amount of time the learner spends on these courses. Each learner will have a different learning experience, and this experience is theirs. It belongs to them as an individual. Now, it's all very well using this technology to aid in delivering the content, but what is the guarantee that the learner actually learned something? Have they retained the information? 80% of what I tell you now, you will have forgotten tomorrow. It's the same with anything we learn. You can't remember all of the lyrics to a song after the first listen. But if you practice and sing it a couple of times a day, within 5 days, you'll be able to sing every word with confidence. Tools such as Memo Trainer, which forms part of the NewSpring platform, provides the learner with the opportunity to practice what they have learned through questions and activities. And these practices can be set up on a daily or weekly basis. So if we look at this graph, we can see how time directly affects the learner's retention. In a traditional course, as indicated by this green line here, the learner receives their certificate at the end of the course and never comes back to it. Their retention over time drops to about 20%. But with the Memo Trainer tool, the learner is constantly being tested and asked questions over several months. And over time, they're able to retain up to 95% of the content they learned. It's a really, really exciting time to be in the space of technology. So from these brief examples, we can see that we have all the tools we need in order to create an effective course. Articulate 360 over here to create and develop your content, a NewSpring to deliver your content, and Memo Trainer to ensure that the learners retain the information. And just to leave you off with this, the greatest thing about technology, especially today, is today it is the worst it will ever be. It's always improving and being replaced by better, more effective technology. And learners can access these platforms anytime, anywhere. When it comes to education, there is no end. There's only opportunity. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much for that, Philip. That was very good. Yeah, that's entirely correct that technology is ever improving. So we need to make use of it and use it really for good. Tech for good is vital in this current system and where we are as humanity now. I mean, we really need to make use of the tech that we currently have, especially in this current time as well. Given COVID, we've all had to be segregated from each other. So technology is definitely one of the solutions that we can use for that. And just with that, we're going to move on to a quick questionnaire for our participants. So we're going to quickly share our screen, and what you must do is then just take a screenshot or a scan of this code, and that should open up the Slido event and then or Slido polling system, and that should allow us to answer the questions that are active on there. So yes, just one moment, and I can do this, and we can access the. I hope you all had an opportunity to scan the code so that we can all answer the questions on the poll there. If not, just give us some feedback on the chat and we can quickly fix that as well. Okay, there we go. We've got some answers coming through. Okay, unfortunately, Dana does not have a QR scanner. You can type your answer in the questions and answers chat box as well if you would like. Okie dokie. So as we see, we're starting to see some polling answers here. 40% with quality education, and the rest are slightly lower. So no hunger, 20%. Sustainable cities and communities, also quite important. Climate action, very important. So there's really a range of solutions and SDGs here that are really vital to human functionality and human sustainability for the future. But it seems that the audience and the participants are really in favor of quality education, because what that does really allows the rest of them to be fulfilled, or rather be addressed more efficiently and successfully. Education is really vital to the remainder of the SDGs. So it is arguable that it is probably the most important SDG out there. That being said, we can move on to the next question. So what actions do you take to be more sustainable? So this is an open question. You can write anything that comes to mind. So yes, we'd like to hear some of your answers as well. If you can't access the polling system, then please feel free to just write away in the chat as well. Okay, climate action, there you go. So these types of actions could be, for example, taking public transport or walking to work, for example, or I'm sure some of you will come up with some innovative answers here. Recycle, reduce, aim for carbon neutrality. That's a very good answer there. Ultimately, what we should be trying to do is reduce our consumption, be more sustainable consumers, and be carbon neutral to have less impact on the environment. That's a good answer as well. Animal derived foods, that's often more impactful on the planet than alternative solutions. Okay, good. Lots of single use and recycling stuff. That's very important, especially coming from Hong Kong. I mean, there's a big waste problem in Hong Kong currently, so that's definitely on the top of everyone's minds there. So that's definitely going to be one of the most prominent answers that we'll find here. And then a couple of answers here that we're getting. Consider what I purchase, what I eat, how I travel. Okay, very good. Buy less. Okay, great. So you're starting to see some commonalities in these answers. Really about shifting our behavior and shifting the way we live as well. Essentially, what we need to do as a species is ultimately shift that demand of products to be more sustainable, and then the supply will be more sustainable, and that will allow businesses to also shift in the right direction as well. And then I think we can go on to the next question here. So this is a word cloud. So what word comes to mind when you think of education? What do you think of when you think of education? Seems that the answers aren't working on this one for some reason. But there's a character limit. Yes, yeah, there is. So it's a one word limit.
Matt, just on that, there's only two. I can only add two letters into that. I would move on to the next one if I were you.
Oh, 2 letters.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this one's more of an open-ended one anyway. What does education lack? I think consistency across the globe is a very good answer. I mean, education is so diverse everywhere, and there's no standard of or international, not much of an international standard when it comes to education. And some more answers here. Quality teacher training. Yes, definitely important. Okay, good. Personalization, that's definitely important. Okay, yes. And that really, when it comes to online education, Phillip said it, we need more engagement and interaction, and really to try and drive that, the outcome of the learner to be more successful and to retain more knowledge essentially, and to really get more value out of what we give them. And then we'll just move on to the next one quickly. What word comes to mind when you think of the environment? Hopefully this doesn't have that 2-letter limit. It might do, so it might be the same settings. If so, we'll move on to the next PowerPoint.
Yeah, it does have a 2-letter limit, so move on.
Okay, unfortunately, we'll have to fix that. Okay, all right. Then we'll move on to the next PowerPoint or the next speaker, and that would be Sole from EcoEd. She's going to be speaking about using technology to enhance environmental awareness and promote sustainable action. So she has an amazing app called EcoFoote, and that really drives sustainable action and a lot of knowledge around sustainability in general. So Sole, would you like to take it away?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm just going to share my desktop now. And so hopefully I'll share a bit of an introduction of how EcoFoote was born and why and what it can do. And do a brief demo as well to show you how the app works live, and to give you that sort of different sense and flavor. So I'd like to start with this slide. When it comes to environmental education and training, what engages you the most? And there's 2 sets of images, one to the left, one to the right. And the reason why I start with this slide is because my background is organizational development. So I worked many, many years in the HR function of big corporates, focusing on learning and development, behavior change, And sustainability was a big passion of mine back in the early days of my career. And so has been learning, and so has been education. And when I had the opportunity to leave my home country, Argentina, and move to London and sort of rethink my career, I did a course on sustainability, a master's there, and my final project was basically how to apply what I was bringing to the course into sustainability. And one of the things that struck me the most was the impact that the course had on me in terms of the engagement that I could feel when presented with the very real information of a planet in decay. So I thought, okay, so what is my role here? What's my positioning? What do I want to do with this? And I thought, well, my place in this whole massive scheme of things might be to help people find ways of taking action within their daily lives, and granting value to those actions as well. Sometimes I was feeling very lost in the global issues of climate change, and very small in comparison to them as well. So in a way, EcoFoote was born as a way of making sustainable living accessible to everyone. We say that's our mission. And when we say accessible, we mean not only because technology is accessible through the phone, but also in terms of language, in terms of words, in terms of gamification, which is again something that we can relate to, and it's fun and it's light, and empower people of all ages to learn about environmental footprint and take practical action. So also I found through the different trials and tests that I did that games were one of the few things that would bring people of different ages together. And EcoFoote actually started as a board game to begin with, and then it was transformed into a technology platform. So what is EcoFoote, and what's our approach to eco-education? So basically, gamified learning is our approach to eco-education. So through our app is like a Trivial Pursuit, let's say, online. So it's a quiz-based game, and we run challenges for corporates, for schools, for universities, and for any other groups, where people play with each other to see who knows more, and engage in a competition. And the questions obviously are all related to environmental footprint and the things that we can do to take action. As players progress, so as they earn points, they get badges, and those badges also unlock actions that you can take on your day-to-day basis. And as you complete those actions, again, you get more points and so on. Then the other interesting thing that I found about sustainability and education is that I was feeling we were all acting a bit in the blind in terms of very little knowledge or understanding of what different groups and audiences know of, more or less, because sustainability obviously is a very big topic, right? So we wanted EcoFoote to be a channel to understand more about people's education needs, sustainability-wise. And so we turned EcoFoote into this big data analytics app. So what we do is, as people play and do those eco challenges, we capture the data of their responses, and then we analyze them to detect strengths and gaps of knowledge and action. And then we can say, for this particular group, so for year 6 in this school, we see that these are the topics they know more of, and these are the topics they know less of. So then we can tailor the content and the learning to the needs of the different audiences. We also analyze the actions that players completed, and give them a general overview of the kind of environmental footprint reduction that we would be talking about if those actions were sustained throughout a year. So that's also, again, about translating small actions into big impact. Finally, in terms of behavior change and rewards, we've recently incorporated some additional elements to make the game more engaging and to feel that sense of impact immediately, like trading points for trees, setting a collective target like a company forest, and people have to play through the eco challenge and get the trees planted through the points that they gain playing the EcoFoote app. Access to eco alternative products and services. So together with the Eco Challenge, we also run a workshop where we talk about sustainable daily habits, and we give people tips and tricks and examples of stores and companies that offer sustainable solutions as alternatives to the more conventional products and services. And we also help individuals and teams come up with action plans to green their homes, their schools, or their office spaces. Well, this is a little bit how the app looks like. So to this day, we've got almost 3,000 users. We've collected almost, well, more than 155,000 data points from the different challenges that we've run, more than 2,000 actions completed, and more than 30 challenges run throughout different settings. So one of the things that I love the most about EcoFoote is that we managed to apply it to year 3 kids and to sustainability conferences or corporates with 3 different generations in the workplace. So it kind of brings all the age groups together. And this is a very quick overview of what an Eco Challenge works, or how it looks like. So basically, players register online and the challenge begins for a specific period of time. Usually it's between a week and 10 days, sometimes 2 weeks. Participants play with each other in individual or group game rounds. So we limit the spectrum of players to that particular school or company or community. Throughout the challenge, they get daily newsletters with who's winning the challenge and who's won the daily points and the daily rewards. Then the challenge finishes, the winners are announced, and the data of players' engagement is analyzed and a report is provided. And of course, we also offer additional learning tools tailored to the learning needs of the audience that we worked with. And this is a case study, the recent corporate EcoFoote program that we run. We did an online workshop for 78 participants, and it was very well received. And we had the Eco Challenge also with 73 players. So out of the 73 participated and activated the challenge. They gathered in a week. This is again a corporate program, so it's for adults. They gathered 236,000 game points and 47,600 data points collected. This is the number of times that the quiz questions were answered. 20 trees were planted and 686 actions were activated. So this is just an example of how a report looks like. Again, we give an overview of the participation, the top players, what are the knowledge strengths in terms of categories. We've got energy, health and well-being, waste and water, and then subcategories within each category, and the same for knowledge gaps. And then we do another analysis of the actions. So number of actions completed out of 46% of the assigned actions. As I said, the game assigns actions to you, and each user has to activate and complete those actions. How many trees were planted and carbon sequestered, and then the impact measurement per person. So if we look at an overall impact of the actions suggested, we give people a sense of, well, if you sustain these actions over time, this is the kind of impact that you can have, positive impact that you can have in a year's time. I think for time's sake, I might leave the demo just quite briefly to share very quickly how the app looks like. But of course, the app is available to download on any app store, so for iPhone and for Android. So you can play the app, there's a public version of it, and you can have a look at it on your own time. So you should be able to see my phone mirroring at the moment. And sorry, I've got too many apps on my phone. Need to sort them out at some point. Yes, so this is EcoFoote. This is my user. These are all my finished games and the scores. If I want to start a new game, I can either play with a friend or random player or do a group game. So if I click on random player, the app will assign a player to me. I spin the wheel and I get a category. In this case, it's energy. And I get a question. Are there more cars or bicycles produced each year in the world? What do you think? More cars or more bicycles?
I'd have to go for cars on that one, but I'm not sure.
Ah, actually it's more bicycles. This one is an interesting one.
You know what, that song, there's 9 million bicycles in Beijing, so maybe that's why. Yes,
exactly. So there is a sustainability challenge in having so many bicycles being produced, definitely. And so on and so forth. So once I get 3 questions answered correctly, how can you recognize if an egg is still good to eat without cracking it open? So I can get a hint. If it sinks in water, it is still good. There is no way but to crack it open. If it sinks in water, it's still good. I guess some of you didn't know that. And yeah, so basically I can see my game stats from here. And also, most importantly, I'm gonna just answer anything for the sake of showing you the actions. Anyways, so my actions, we also promote organizations with a sustainability focus through our app. And if I go to actions, I see the list of actions that I've got. Some are about learning, like what is global warming, find out. Then others are like have a shower instead of a bath, cook 1 meal for family or friends, time the duration of showers at home, try using bees wrap to store food. So if I tap on that action, I've got more information about why it's important, and then activate action, and I've got 48 hours to complete it. So yeah, that's a bit what the app does, and I'm gonna stop sharing now and switch back to Matt.
Thank you, Sole, so much. That was very good, and thank you for showing us that demo. As you can see, it's a really great app in terms of learning about sustainability and those actions. So please feel free to download that. I'd also like to just chime in that New Leaf Tech has also just launched their app as well, if you'd like to check that out. And on that note, then we'd like to introduce Benita from Encompass Hong Kong. She's going to be exploring SDG education in an effort to reach the 2030 UN United Nations goals. So Benita, you can take it away. I think you're still on mute there.
Is it working?
Yes, there we go.
Okay. So hello, everybody. So I'm Benita from Encompass. And for those who joined late, I'll just briefly explain myself again. I know Simon is here, another scuba diving instructor. Scuba diving is a very big part of me and my reason why I like the environment and do what I do. I also do a lot of LGBT work. So today I'm going to tell you a few things I do on the SDG and education. So I know all of you here probably know what the SDGs are. I don't know if all of you have seen this. This is called the SDG kick. It's one of my favorite diagrams to see how the SDG goals are linked together. So you can see in the bottom, there's the planet goals where you have the climate action, life below water, life on land, and build that. Once you have the planet stable, you can have people, which means education, which a lot of you think is important. You also have health and gender equality. And after that, you can think about prosperity, which talk about sustainable city, industry, and finally have peace and partnership. And as Matthew said, partnership is one of the hardest of the goal. And I will show you a few projects which I try to tie in all this. So just to give you a few overview, in Asia, actually, unfortunately, this is data from 2018, and I don't think the data now in 2020 is any better, is that we are lacking behind in all SDG goals. And in particular, we are not doing good in responsible consumption. So you can see we actually regress back in 2000. So actually, this is one of the goals that I have worked on a lot extensively. And if you look at Hong Kong, this is one of my favorite graphs. It's a survey done by the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network. You can see in Hong Kong, a lot of people care about climate action. So climate action is way over here, 8.81. However, if you look at the lowest concern SDG, is actually SDG 12. Just like the graph we saw before, SDG 12, responsible consumption, is looked at very on a low priority. And this is a big problem because I think whereas we individuals, we might not have a lot of influence through, over government or what institution can do, we can each change our consumption patterns. So what Zoe said about changing our habits, about green tips is definitely very important. So here at Encompass, we do a lot of experiential learning workshops and events, very fun stuff, and I will tell you how fun it is. We try to link climate change to very interesting topics, so it's not boring. So this is a list of things that we do. We do everything from eco trips to sustainable coffee to farm to table meals. So I won't go through all of it, but it shows you a diversity of things that we work on SDG. So I do want to give one example. As I said, I think responsible consumption is one of the topics we care about. And I think as a heavy coffee drinker myself, I really like using coffee as an example to talk about sustainability of how individual can make a choice about purchasing fair trade coffee, or how to reuse coffee ground, or maybe bring your own cups. So this is an example of a slide I use in my education, which I tell, educate people about how the SDGs are related to the well-being of the producer, how is it related to the environment, and finally, why is it related to the coffee quality. And usually after the coffee tasting, and I've done it actually online as well without the coffee tasting, but I've used that as an example for high school education, I tell people what they can do. So I encourage sustainable coffee habits, like using your own cups, or even like the beautiful candle you see here are made of coffee grounds. So we encourage people to really upcycle that coffee grounds product, or using hashtags using sustainable coffee. So we hope that people come away with the workshop with some takeaways that they can do. We also do other online talks, so our topics are very diverse. We have done topics on Hong Kong insects, on climate change and Hong Kong biodiversity, climate justice, waste-free Hong Kong. I know a few of you, like Dana here, have joined our talks. And I'll tell you in particular a very interesting example. We actually use climate change to talk, wine to talk about climate change. And we did it actually online without the actual wine. And I think especially with COVID now, I think even without the wine, people are fascinating to know about, want to know about how climate change may affect the grape productions, of how they may taste, how different vineyard may be different, and we are really looking at unique angles on how to encourage people on the climate change dialogue. These are some of the tours that I do. I lead trips to different parts of Hong Kong, to Hoi Ha, to Lai Chi Wo. Actually, tomorrow I'm leading a trip for a small group. These are some of the amazing animals in our trip. And actually, we do citizen science. We do learning of these animals through a tool, which I will be telling you. And if you haven't downloaded this tool, I really encourage all of you to do so. It's a free tool. It's developed by the National Geographic. It's called the iNaturalist. So basically, it's a very easy use platform. You take a picture of whatever you are seeing, whether it's a mushroom or insect or a bird, and it automatically give you a location and a time of where you make the observation, and it have suggestions for the species which are common, and for species which are not common, you might find some expert which might help you to identify these animals better. And we call this citizen science. And I think this is one form of online learning, especially now with COVID, that is not possible. Maybe all of us to go on a field trip. You can go and explore the environment on your own, and using this tool to learn about the animals and the plants you see. And we have also done something like when we go to, for example, the Hoi Ha, we do like a project where everybody on that day take as many records as possible, and we have like little competition, so we can do like what Phillip say, like a game-based learning using this competition to encourage learning more about the animals. So there's also this City Nature Challenge. I don't know if all of you have heard of it. It's worldwide. So different cities compete in having the most number of observation, most number of species, and most number of observers. And Hong Kong actually did pretty well among all the cities. And this City Nature Challenge is available for individuals, for school, for students. So if that's something you are eager to promote in your network, I'm not the person in charge, but my friends, Sean is, you can message me, I can put you in touch. But if not, you can join this. It's just Google City Nature Challenge and you'll find the information online. So why is iNaturalist a good tool to learn about biodiversity? First, it helps you to keep tracks of the animals. And I know, for example, like some professors in Hong Kong U, there are some animals like moths that are really hard to encounter, and they rely on the citizen science. They rely on people to identify this animal and give them data, research data. So it actually is not just helping you as a citizen to learn about the animal. It also helps scientists to collect data. And of course, it's a great way to learn about nature. And as I said, you can run a BioBlitz, where a game where people find as many species as possible. So I think this is one way we can use use technology to enhance nature learning. I also recently did this TEDx event, which is an online event on countdown on climate change. And I just want to show you a very short clip of one of our animation. So this is a talk by our young climate activist Kamashi, and actually sorry. And actually, because of COVID this year, we are not able to do the TEDx event, which usually, as you know, is a very good event to attend in person with the audience, with the stage and all that. But we were able to do this online with over 4 hours of content, both in Cantonese and English, with a range of topics from microplastics, upcycled timber, marine life, and all that. We have over 4,000 views on Facebook and over 100,000 views on Yahoo Live. So although I know TEDx is best to watch in person, but I also want to say online event do have an impact. Online well-curated event, and just like today, there's some poll. We have some poll during the sections to engage the audience, to make it interactive, to make the audience being part of it. So it does work. So the final project I want to show you is this one. This is a app I recently developed with the University of Hong Kong. It's an interactive map. So if you click on each of the purple point, it comes up with a checkpoint. And our purpose is for the students, Hong Kong students who are not, a lot of them not able to come to the campus because of COVID. They will learn about the environment, how is it related to the SDG, and it also built a sense of belonging to the campus. So this is an example, like you can see on the left is a rooftop garden, and we link the rooftop garden to the different SDG. And then on the right, just like EcoFoote, there's a quiz. We also have a quiz about the checkpoint, and then it also linked to references and linked to different courses. So we have launched this last week, actually, just quite recently, and we already have over 3,000 visits for the students. So it is quite popular for the students to use this tool to learn about their campus. So for me, I think for each of this program, whether it's Eco Tour, whether it's coffee, whether it's SDG map, the big issue here to think about the SDG is why do we have that issue? Like, for example, coffee, why is it a problem? Why is it affecting the farmer? Why is it affecting the land? Why does the issue matter? Because it affects a lot of people. It affects the environment. Who and what are affected, the stakeholders involved, and what needs to be done. How can we each make a difference? And connections to other SDGs and issues. So each SDGs are interrelated. As you can see from my coffee slide, the coffee is not just about the environment, it's also about the farmer and about different issues. So I will leave you with this slide. I don't know if all of you have seen that. I know a lot of you have seen the SDG goal, but this is called the Good Life Goal. So this is individual goal that we can, as individual, can do. So for example, we can eat better, we can be fair, we can make smart choices. This is the message I try to come across in my SDG education. So that's it. I hope that was short and sweet.
Thank you, Benita. That was fantastic. Really nice to see those action points and events and so on, what you are planning and have been implementing as well. That's really what we need to do, is take action and to really try and drive the changes that we are speaking about. So that will follow on for the next steps as to what we will all do together, hopefully. So we hopefully will drive some innovative solutions in the future. Just for the last few moments, we are going to open up Keynote's Q&A. So if any of the audience has any questions for us, then we'd like to open up the Q&A section, so you can jump away and ask any questions if you may have. We have got some internal questions if not. So we are going to explore those, but maybe I can just give you a moment to think of some questions that you may want to ask any of us. Okay, I'll leave the chat open, so hopefully there'll be some questions coming in there. Just from our side, we do have some questions. So where do you think the future of education is heading? That's the first question that we'd like to ask the keynote speakers. So where do you think the future of education is heading? Maybe Philip or Sole, I noticed you unmuted yourself. So do you want to share something?
Well, I mean, I guess I've got a 4 and a 2-year-old, so the future of education is like slapping me on the face every day. Things
Yes,
have
yeah.
changed so much. I think a very strong trend is online and technology and utilizing devices of some kind or some sort. And it's quite interesting because you can see there's a pushback from teachers and from institutions because we have still this very polarized vision of technology as being something that can be quite harmful or that can prevent us from connecting with other parts of our life. And more I'm questioning myself how much of that polarization comes from our paradigm of, not having being born with technology as these very young kids, because for them it's just it's one more thing. It's very integrated. So definitely digital, definitely online, and I guess the question is how do we come at peace with that as older adults that come from a different world?
Yes, yeah, entirely agreed. It's very much shifting to online education, and I think the tools, such as what Phillip spoke about, there's really tons of online tools that can be used. So it's really more about tech for good, rather than spending too much time on social media, I suppose, too much time on Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. So we really need to focus on tech for good. And that I really think is the potential for the future of education. But maybe Phillip, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's no doubt that it's going towards the online space, and I think obviously COVID has almost fast-tracked that whole transition. But I also think that sort of possibly our next phase will be, rather than everybody learning at one time, even if it is online or it is in a classroom, I think a push towards asynchronous learning where learners can go through their courses and learn when they want, where they want. I think there's also going to be a huge push to that, towards that at least. And it will mean that you're not bogged down by a specific time and day. You can really, at any time, there's absolutely no excuses. You can always learn. And then just on the other thing with social media and that sort of stuff, I think that all of those platforms are fully customized by you. So it's again your platform. So everything that you are doing and saying on that platform, the AI is saying to you, or at least is predicting and sending you information that they think that you'll like. So you can really curate those social media platforms and make sure that if you want to use it for something like education, you can really go and follow those pages, like those things, and all of a sudden you'll be exposed to things that you never ever thought would be possible. And that's through the technology, you know what I mean? And that's through social media. So I think, as you say, Matt, it's just really about using the tech for good rather than sort of a time waster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, tech can really be an extension or kind of an assister to our lives, I suppose. So that's really what we need to do with it. And then going on to the second question there, how can we keep learners engaged through online learning? Maybe Phil, this is one for you again. Not sure if you have any specifics that you want to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think again, going back to Facebook and whatnot, that has really dumbed us down, and really our attention spans are extremely short. I think you'll see possibly a lot of people can't reach 30 seconds without scrolling down and skipping that video. So really creating those bite-sized courses and ensuring that learners always have a reason to come back for more. It's almost like creating a series. Mike, our managing director, for instance, he likes to talk about edutainment. So if you look at a series on Netflix, and the fact that you can binge that series, that's because just at the end of the episode, it sort of gives you a teaser, or maybe it doesn't reveal everything that it needs to. So if we can try and incorporate that into learning, then there's obviously huge potential for, and there'll be huge reason for people to come back.
Yes, entirely agreed. I mean, there's a lot of room for creativity, not only from a student's perspective, from a teacher's perspective as well, and from the education system in general. One of my favorite TED Talks, actually, going back to what Benita was talking about, is from Sir Ken Robinson. He spoke about why kids are educated out of creativity. And that was the most watched TED Talk in the world. So if you'd like to give that a watch, that's really, really a good TED Talk to go and watch. And I know Phil and I have also spoken about that as well. So yeah, I mean, that's really true. We do need to get a bit more creative as to how we can engage learners and how we can keep them interacting with the content and to really maximize that outcome of the learner. I mean, Netflix, for example, they are so good at keeping you on Netflix, or Instagram is so good at keeping you on that platform itself. So what we really need to be trying to do is to shift those dynamics into education rather, and try and get people to keep learning. So lifelong learning is really vital to how we adapt the learning systems that we have in place as well. And then just another question there. How has COVID-19 triggered the educational industry to transition away from traditional classroom experiences? So maybe Benita and Sole, you want to chime in with that? I know, Sole, you said you have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so maybe that's something you've probably had to deal with quite a lot lately, I'm guessing.
Sorry, you go first. I can't hear you.
I think you're on mute.
Go ahead, Benita. Yeah, you go first.
Sorry, the question is, how has COVID, sorry, can you repeat the question, Matthew?
Yes, how has COVID-19 affected the education system?
Well, I think it just really forced everybody into online learning. And as Phillip said, I think it really forced people to think about not just putting their PowerPoint online, and really changes the world, I think the way of presenting, maybe flip classroom on how to give assignments for students to prepare first and come in for discussion. And another thing I want to mention is you were mentioning about the future of education before, and I think right now there's a lot of talk about like Google University or stuff, and then maybe university, we don't need that because there's so much online learning. But I think at some point, whether it's through online but in person as well, I think it's also important as to develop the students the empathy or the soft skill or interpersonal skill. I think to succeed in the 21st century, other than just the knowledge, we also need that way, whether it's online or in person, to collaborate with different people. So I think that's really, whether like there's now the Google Classroom or different way you can work with different classmates. I think that's also one big trend we're seeing.
Yes, yeah, entirely agreed there. I'm sure you've probably shifted a lot from the face-to-face and practical application of learning to more online content, as you've expressed with us as well. Sole, what are some of the difficulties you faced with having 2 children that are really, it's a big adaptation that you've had to make to your life, I suppose?
Yes, I mean, besides not knowing how to keep them entertained and happy and learning, I think to your point about how has COVID affected the educational system, I think it's revealed its fragility, and how unprepared it is to cope with anything but the way that things have been done for as long as we know. And how slow it can be, or how difficult it is for the schools and the teachers to be able to adapt and to reinvent learning, because they don't have time, because they're running behind the ball, unfortunately, every day, you know, trying to get the class done and so on. The other thing is that I feel it's also revealed how much education is a system, and it's not just a place like a school or an institution, and it's not it doesn't happen outside of the family, it happens with the family. And it's put us all parents on the spotlight and just made us think a lot about how much we've sort of delegated education into the schools, kind of going, okay, here you go, take my child, do something with it and bring it back to me at 3. Now we have to take matters in our hands and really make sure that, you know, they've got what they need, and that they sit for the online learning and so on and so forth. So yeah, big on revealing how education is an ecosystem. It's not just a responsibility of the schools.
Yes, yeah. I mean, COVID-19 has really showed the flaws of the education system itself. So it's really triggered a point of change for an adaptation for all teachers, schools, and even parents. So it's really brought to light a lot of change that we needed anyway. Not for a good cause, unfortunately, but at least we have an opportunity for positive change now. There is a couple of questions on the Q&A section. I think Benita answered this one, but it was just about Benita's plans to educate within secondary school systems, whether outdoor education trips or LGBT or the SDGs implementation into secondary education. I think that your style will work well with students needed in the local school system in particular. And I see that Benita answered there with some of the points that she mentioned in her talk as well, as to how she's implemented some programs specifically for the SDG education and LGBT talks and things like that as well. So I definitely think if we all work together along the lines of SDG education, environmental education, and growing awareness together, that's really what our objective is in the future. And I hope that you all have learned a lot from this webinar today. I think it's about time that we wrap up, just to conclude things a little bit. I'd just like to share my screen one more time to share with you the free courses that you'll get from attending the webinar. So I'll share the link with you. So you'll get a free climate change course and a free psychology of sustainability course. So I hope you all enjoyed our talks today, and please feel free to take that course and to explore more in detail about all of our businesses. I mean, you can download EcoEd's app. You can be in contact with Benita about her SDG education and LGBT education. And feel free to contact Phil from New Leaf as well. And then I hope you all enjoyed the conference today. And hopefully we'll all see you soon in a future event. All right, thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.